Town Council meeting of January 25th, 2018 to order. Stand to pledge the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public comment, we have a few people. Cheryl Force. Thank you.
I know this is unusual, and I'm not even directing it at them, I'm directing it out here. There's a lot of rumors going around this town for the last month about two positions. One's appointed, one's hired. We follow a format, whether we like it or not. Letters were issued, we ended up not liking how they were issued. They don't give enough detail why someone's called to come to the council. It's the way we have to do it when we do it all together. And I want people to understand nothing malicious was meant by either of them. I've talked to both of the people. And I apologize publicly for one, and I apologize to the other person privately, and I will do it in public for both of them. There was no intent of malice or forethought of hurting anyone, letting anyone go. It was for discussion purposes, and I want that to be clear. We were all on the same page. We all agreed. We don't always agree, obviously, but we agreed. And when certain things have to be done, they have to be done, and they have to be done in the right manner. And I would just like people to understand that there are policies, there are rules, there are things that we follow as well when we're running a meeting. Never in a million years would I try to hurt or plan to hurt an individual in any way, embarrass them, or cause them angst. I don't believe people on this council would either. What we do privately is differently, but as a council, I haven't seen it yet, and I don't expect to see it. And I just wanted to clear that up. I think people know who I'm addressing, and I'd like those kind of rumors to stop. If you have heard something and you have a question, please come to one of the sources and ask, or go to that person and see if in fact it's true before they start going all around town and hurting people more. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, Cheryl. And that was unsolicited. Lynn Ryder.
Yes. Back in December, you appointed someone to the zoning board that I can find no record of that person being a resident of town. I guess, the house will be finished at some point, but it is not finished, and it certainly wasn't finished back in December. And according to the charter, they have to be an elector of the town.
Thank you. Mr. Savazio.
Yeah, for the three people that, I think maybe four council people that were at the planning board meeting.
I can't attend them, sorry.
No,
I know that's the answer.
that's fine. Oh, by the way, when did you all agree? Never mind, Cheryl was a double joke, okay? For the people that attended the planning board meeting, I made a presentation, Mr. Renzi made a presentation that when you put away $200,000 in this cycle for a fire truck, you can probably lease a fire truck for 10 years and with the $200,000 buy a highway truck also. In 1990, you leased fire trucks before. The main crux of what I'm talking about is you need a finance committee. I've been saying you need a finance committee for 20 years. Gloucester has a finance committee. When the school committee makes its presentation, it makes it to the finance committee, not the council. I know we had a PhD geologist on the planning board, but that's not a finance person. You finally have 3 finance people on the planning board, and you should start to take their advice. The planning board that I know of has never had the ability to deal with finances. I don't think any of you, take this for what it's worth, have the ability to singularly run a $14 million business. So that leaves the finances in this community to one person. And that's not the proper way to run this business. I know there are people on this council that believe you never lease, you always buy things, blah, blah, blah. That's how you run your personal business. That's not how you run a town. I don't think I know of one town in the state that doesn't lease some of their equipment. So you can lease a fire truck for the amount of years you want to. Kelly needs to do the work, and buy a highway truck outright. And when I see a highway truck going down the road with more salt pouring out of the side than I see it pouring out of the back, there's something wrong. You probably need highway trucks more than you need fire trucks.
Thank you. Mr.
You're
Stone.
welcome. I would just like to publicly thank all our volunteers and all the volunteers that helped us clean up at Cornerstone Farm. Just like to publicly thank all the fire departments and all the people that are helping.
Thank you. Moving on, we have the minutes from January 11th, 2018.
Make a motion to accept the minutes from January 11, 2018 as presented.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Moving on to payroll warrant number 28.
Make a motion to accept payroll warrant number 28, the amount of $36,034.55.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to payroll warrant number 29.
Make a motion to accept payroll warrant number 29, the amount of $37,839.27.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to general warrant number 14.
Make a motion to accept general warrant number 14 in the amount of $62,280.54.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving,
Recusing himself over the next two
okay.
warrants.
General warrant number 14A.
I make a motion we pay general warrant 14A in the amount of $600.17.
Should I have a second? Second. Thank you. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to general warrant number 14B.
I make a motion to pay general warrant 14B in the amount of $400.
Do I have a second? Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Moving on to monthly reports for December.
Make a motion to accept the monthly reports on Building Zoning Department, Department of Public Works, Finance Department, Human Services, Planning Department, Police Department, Rhode Island Resource Recovery, and the Tax Assessor.
Second.
Thank you. I'd like it noted too that the Finance Department has November and December's in there. And I just have one quick question, Kelly. Looking at the collections for the current year, the principal compared to prior years, it's quite significant. Is that because of that new tax?
I think it's because with the questionable changes in the federal tax law, a lot of people came in December and paid up because they wanted to be able to deduct their taxes in the upcoming year.
It was significant.
It was significant.
Wow.
It was very big.
So we won't see that.
I don't think you'll see it.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Any other questions? No discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to the quarterly reports.
Make a motion to accept the quarterly reports for October, November, and December, that quarter, for the Board of Canvassers, Engineering Board, Forster Ambulance Corps, Forster Fire Center, Forster Center Fire Company, Forster School Committee, Zoning Board of Review, Land Trust, Libraries, Moosehead Valley Fire Company, Planning Board, and the Tax Board of Review.
Second.
I just have a question. Did you say engineering?
Yeah, I didn't have one, but I asked Chris if he had his, and he said he did, so I thought it was
I did not have an engineering board.
I didn't either.
I didn't either.
All right, so Chris, you got the only one, Harold.
No, maybe it's not there. Maybe I pretended it was there.
Well, while you're
No,
looking,
you didn't, you know why? Because it was the engineering board minutes that I had gotten, and I put it in the quarterly reports, but it really should have went in minutes, so I took it out, put it in minutes, and that's why you don't have it, but this was already on there.
Okay.
So I pretended to have it.
okay.
Okay, so,
And the Board of Canvassers also submitted for July through September. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to new business. We have the resignation of the current probate judge, who is Jane Gazunda.
I make a motion to accept the resignation from probate judge from Jane Grisenda with regret.
Second.
Discussion. She did submit a letter saying that it's been a pleasure, but at this time, she's not able to continue. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moving on to appointment of the new probate judge. The previous probate judge was Paula Kukala, who expressed an interest when she heard about Jane. So I would put forward her name. I know we've been pleased with her in the past. She had been the probate judge for previous councils.
Make a motion to appoint Paula Kupalo as probate judge to cover the vacancy of Jane Grisenda.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to the appointment to Recreation Committee, we do have an email, and again, I want to thank Mrs. Dillon for being so diligent on getting that information out of openings on various committees. So we do have an email from someone who expressed an interest, Ryan Sisek.
I would like to make a motion to appoint Ryan Zezek to the Recreation Board.
Do you have a second? Mike seconded. I take it you have
I'm going to
discussion.
yes.
Okay.
How you doing, Ryan?
Yeah, not too bad, Joe. Now
So how come it took you so long?
well, this is the first that I saw the opening, so,
Okay.
yeah, I saw it on the, I think one of the Facebook pages, and then I contacted the town shortly thereafter, so. If you want a brief bio, I've been in the town for the past 5 years. Before that, I lived in Gloucester, but I lived here with my parents before that, so it's about 10 years now altogether. I have 3 kids in the school system, 2 in the elementary school right now, 1 in the middle school. I'm a graduate of Pontiac-Gansett and the Gloucester system before that, so also a URI and Bryant graduate. So, and I'm a test development engineer for Infineon Technologies in Warwick.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
I'd like to see if you can get any more of his family members, because he comes from a very large family.
Yes,
So while we're
I
at
know some of his siblings.
He doesn't, he just has to bring them with him.
Yeah.
it, through certain channels, we have mutual.
Exactly.
So if you could bring some more of your family members.
We'll try.
Any further discussion?
Yes, can I ask him one thing? He wrote here, I have many ideas that I believe would benefit all the residents. Could you just give a couple?
Well, I think the first thing I noticed was there's very little presence on the internet right now for what the Recreation Committee does, and any upcoming programs. So I searched for actually about 2 days just to try to find something. So I think that's number one. Would be to add some kind of presence, be it via social media or website itself, or some kind of in conjunction with the town's existing website, and then having younger kids that participate in the school systems, and coming from some other things that I've done in the town of Gloucester, participated in. like to see what kind of programs we could, bring in to, get the town together at different locations, ice skating events, things like that, town events as well. Yeah, I threw a bunch of ideas up for the first couple of days and bounced them off my wife, so there's a few.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard, man.
Thank you.
Next is the appointment to part-time zoning, or of part-time zoning official. We had discussed this last time. I know Mr. Dillon and Ms. Forrest met with the gentleman along with Mr. Bishop. So I guess we'll leave it to you guys to present how it went and.
Do we make a motion or to discuss it, or do we just?
Why don't we make a motion and then discuss it?
I would make a motion to appoint Mark Warner as part-time zoning official.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
I know. Yes, at my request, the council agreed to let us talk to Mark further, and we did so with Rhett, and he answered all my questions. I was concerned mostly about his time and whether how he would squeeze us in, because he has a full-time job, well, sort of. It's his business, he can make his own hours, and he does the work for Situate as well in the same capacity. He reports to the planner there, he would report to the planner here. Rhett was there. Rhett has worked with him in the past, so he knows him and he knows his abilities. I was impressed and pretty pleased with talking to him. I was a little bit concerned about maybe he was too aggressive, but he told me he works with someone who he works with at the Situate Townhouse. I happen to know her very well, so I made a call and I spoke to her at length, and she was very forthcoming, and she said she had the same reservation when she heard he was applying there, and she was very much pleased and surprised at the transformation. Some people do outgrow their youth, and he seems to have. He will, I think, get things done. It will be at the discretion of the planner, I'm sure of that. And I think he might be I hope he will be a good fit. I believe he will be, from the things I heard from him and from his assistant at Situate. So I'm happy to recommend the position. And what do you want to say? I don't know.
Yeah, I met him also. Well, I knew him. I knew of him. I was comfortable with what he had, what he brought to the table. It'll be a huge help to Rhett, considering his hours, to tie up loose ends, violations and such. Actually, that's what he's good at. So I believe he'd be a good fit. Time will tell, but I can't see moving backwards on it. Moving forward, building his own, giving him the option to take some of his load.
He actually used to work for the town. He used to be a plumbing and mechanical inspector at one time. That's how, it was me.
That was a few years ago.
Yeah.
I also know him from his business. He did work at my company, so I know him already also.
I didn't.
I did not know him either, so. I did speak with Mr. Bishop, and just because I knew he wasn't going to be present, I wanted to make sure he had a voice here tonight. And he felt that there would be some things that he would send him on and some things that he would not. And that, he understood, Mr. Bishop understood that he would be the one who would be, if you will, assigning.
Well, why wouldn't it be?
Right, but I want to make sure Mr. Bishop realized that. that he would be the one that would be.
I spent about 4 hours with Mr. Bishop trying to emphasize that.
Good, so it's been double whammy. Good.
I also spoke with Brett when you had asked me about trying to see if we could figure something out. And I reached out to Situate. Before I reached out to Situate, I did speak to Brett, told him he'd be in total control of that ship. So I think he's been reiterated that ad nauseum.
He should feel comfortable with it. Good. Do we have anything else that we needed to have completed?
Do we have to determine, one thing I'm assuming we had talked numbers with him when we met him, and I believe we seemed to an agreement, one thing might be missing. It's just a set in stone, is that he's not.
It's on call, if you will?
He's on call, and Rhett's aware of this, aware of the fact that you want to call him to work an hour, and then leave.
Yes.
You know, so maybe we can, I don't know if we have to set it in stone, to give, maybe do a 4-hour, make it a 4-hour minimum.
Per week?
Can that be?
No, I think when we call them, as like a subcontractor, you're calling them as an on-needed basis. So to call somebody in for the rate for an hour and tell them, you're all set, you're done. He's not entitled to vacation and sick time and anything else like our building official is.
It's on a set day, time.
That's a common thing that's used in, I know the DOT at the state level uses that when they call someone out in, other.
Well, like for me, even as a subcontractor, if somebody wants me to do something, I can move a rock from there to there. I'm not coming down to work 30 minutes because it ain't worth me coming in and doing all that work. So,
do you think 4 hours is excessive? Do you think 2 hours is better?
I think probably 4 hours, because it's not like we can't get him a list of things that's going to take him 4 hours to do. We're not going to call him.
Compile a list.
Right.
That's fine, then. You can do that. You can make that part of your motion.
Are you saying, I'm sorry, are you saying if he came in for an hour, we would pay him for 4?
No,
No.
we make sure that he has
No.
4 hours worth of work.
Right.
No, that we have 4 hours, yes.
I don't think he would take the job if he called him in for 1 hour's worth of work and left. He wouldn't probably do that very often, nor would I,
What Kelly-
and I would never come back.
What Kelly thought is that he
No.
comes in for an hour,
No.
we pay him for 4. No, it's not a union.
I think when we call him in, we should have plenty of work for him to give him 3 or 4 hours worth of work.
I think.
I don't want to use him, say, hey, come in and do this, and, oh, it's only an hour, see you later, because then we're not treating him fair either, and it's not fair to him.
He's gonna change his work schedule
Right,
to do our.
yeah. And Mr. Bishop did say he can think of right off the top of his head 5. that he
We may go 2 or 3 weeks or a month without even
Right.
using him, but when you do use him, it's not fair to him to bring him in for an hour, was my point.
Would it be prudent to have a contract?
Yes.
And that it would be a probational period to see how
6 months like you've done.
how it works out
Right.
with, okay, so,
And no, he's
You want-
not really a contractor, he would be paid as an employee.
Right.
So you want me to amend the motion?
yes, please.
So I'd like to amend the motion to have a contract drawn up and reviewed by the solicitor and the council president, and move forward, and the treasurer, and move forward with anything else that's needed, possibly background checks, like we normally do,
Mhm.
before he starts.
That's not what
Is it?
That's done,
Oh, I
okay.
don't know. So
Okay,
the contract, and that would entail the 4 hours minimum.
okay, so if we get it all in writing,
Yep.
Right.
and then, okay, so was that seconded?
Second.
I don't believe it has to come back to the council, does it?
No,
Yeah.
email your thoughts to us, we'll prepare it.
Okay.
Cheryl had a motion already, right?
Yeah, but I'm
Yes,
amending
she's
that
amending, he's
motion.
amending the
Okay.
motion. So Gordon amended it to include the contract, the probation period, the 4 hours.
Minimum 4 hours.
Kelly will get the information to Mr. Torchy, they'll develop it, we'll review it, and then move forward. If there's anything that stands out, we can always bring it back to the table right at this point. So, the motion has
The
been,
rate of pay? Include that in this?
yes, yes,
Include that?
that within the contract.
Yes.
So, we've had it amended, all in favor?
Aye.
You seconded the amendment,
No, Mike did.
Mike did.
No.
No.
Cheryl?
Cheryl did the main.
Cheryl seconded the second.
I did. Okay, great. So, any further discussion for the amendment? Yes, Mrs. Ryder.
In zoning enforcement, there may be a time where you have a singular crisis come up, and you're going to have to call him in just for that thing. I mean, we had it when, because of, when that motel was closed, or whatever it was.
But I think we still have Brett.
Brett can
He's
handle it.
our.
Right, but if he's not
zoning official.
in, do you have to call him in?
He comes in for us, yes. He does. If we have an emergency, he has come in the past for us, and then it's worked out. So Brett is our main zoning official. This is just to kind of ease some of the pressures on him.
His hours are limited, so you want
Right.
someone to come in, that's the issue.
Right.
Right, so
Brett's hours
there's a
are.
part-time person that's gonna take over and keep his hours in.
We have extra hours and we're in there. There's 8 hours left over because he's only working 12 and he does handle stuff like that. So this, what was failing was our zoning enforcement. We were getting complaints, so we're trying to kind of tie some loose ends up, and I think it's a pretty good fit for the town. Where
I'm happy with this.
I don't know where you can go hire somebody for 8 hours a week. And we
Right.
may not need them for 8 hours a week, but you'd
And
be
he
paying.
understands that,
And
and
you,
he
well, if
understands
you're
that.
hiring somebody, first of all, you'd have to hire somebody for 8 hours a week, and then you'd have to have them sitting there and may not utilize them for 8
Right.
hours a week. So this is, I think, a perfect fit.
I agree. So all in favor of the amended motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Going back to the main motion. Any further discussion on the main motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Moving on to the appointment to Conservation Commission. We also have a letter here.
I would like to make a motion to appoint Kathleen Collins to the Conservation Commission. We have a letter requesting she wants to.
Second.
Thanks, Chris.
You're welcome.
I just have one question.
Of course.
In your email, it says that you want to speak to someone about the details to the appointment. Were those questions answered?
They were. Mrs. Dillon spent a good time on the phone with me answering some of my questions, and we had a really good conversation about possibilities, and so it sounds like it could be fun, and I thought I could just bring a little fresh air into the conversation.
Thank you.
I'll personally speak for Kathleen.
Oh, thanks. Well, there you go.
You didn't have much to say, but you voted for it.
Just as well the engineer.
Maybe lucky to get her.
Thanks, Chris, I appreciate
Any
that.
further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Look forward to playing with you.
Do you want to do it right now?
No, I'll do that.
Okay. If you could just both stay after the meeting and be sworn in, and then Mrs. Dillon also has some information for you.
Thank you.
Moving on, we have a letter from the International Association of Firefighters Union, which is also the dispatchers. We have this letter which we received on January 10th. It is dated January 8th. And from speaking to the president of that union, Joanne Law, evidently because of our meeting time and the letter being received, it was overextended, the time frame that is allowed. So she did submit, I did sign a letter of agreement to waive the time period set forth in the Firefighters Arbitration Act, which I will give to you so that you can file that. So they do have a request to begin negotiating collective bargaining agreement. I would be open to a motion, and anyone volunteering to be
I would
part
make
of
a
that.
motion that we move forward with negotiations with the firefighters union and dispatchers, and I'd like to see Mike and Kelly. We did a pretty good job on one of them before. I think we got a pretty good team going.
So the three of you?
Yep.
Okay. Is there a second?
Sorry.
seconding, are you agreeing? Or you want to have further discussion? He nominated you to be part of the negotiating committee with him.
I would have said no way from
Well, that's what I wanted to make sure. So we have a motion on the floor to have Mr. Dillon and Mr. Rogers be part of the, representing the town council with the negotiations for the dispatchers, along with Ms. Russ. Do we have any further discussion?
I will just say that I can't do it because of my other jobs, I'm sorry.
And I'll just say thank you very much.
I'll say thank you as well. Anyone can play good cop, bad cop, back.
Whatever floats your boat, I don't care, I don't have to be there.
And the muscle.
Bring the muscle.
Yes.
All good.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. At our last meeting, it was brought up about the roadside litter ordinance. There's been quite a bit on social media in regards to couches, TVs, tires, etc., being left on the roadsides, and what can be done. So Mr. Dillon had asked that. I did contact the planner, the DPW director, and the chief of police, asking them for what they had to discuss this, anything that they had to put forward. The chief did send some information along, which we have in front of us. But, Mr. Dillon.
Well, I asked for this to be on the agenda to discuss it, to try to get something, to try to look for an answer. We have an ordinance in place with a hefty fine on it. I think we could even put you in jail for 30 days or something. Our problem isn't, we would never get this far. The problem is, it gets done, nobody can see it. I have it at the end of my driveway, like numerous people around town complaining about, it's been on Forest Council News with, I've been seeing it sporadically, a chair on Luther Road, or
A boat.
Tucker Hollow seems to be have a share of problems. I don't know what the answer is without catching somebody. So at this point, it seems like an awareness campaign to try. I would say the people that are reading, you can comment on the post, and everybody that's reading those posts, they're not the ones that are littering.
I think it's
or dumping.
out of town. I think they're out of towners.
So if it's out of towners, or I think it's more of an awareness thing. I did some reading online about signage and the difference from one sign to the next, and we see them all over the place. A lot of what I found interesting was just putting up a no litter sign sometimes makes people just litter because the sign's there. The sign has a psychological effect, depending on how it's worded. So I just wanted to get it out there. Maybe, I don't really want to form another committee with more meeting time, but to get some dialogue going.
I can tell you just from, those who know President of the Council, we grappled with this, our meeting 2 weeks ago, and our police chief, who I know Chief Zeal is friends with, said the problem is those people are not going to litter when the police are around. The problem in our town is that we have a town dump, and it appears that people go into the dump, stuff falls out of their vehicles. The other issue we have is the reservoir. A lot of people dump their box springs and mattresses and their old like stoves and whatever, refrigerators, and they must do it in the middle of the night because we don't catch anyone. And we have the same problems you have here. People complain, people are on Facebook, and they go on Facebook and they photograph all the garbage they put up on their road. And I always thank them because we only have 6 highway department members and they can't pick litter. So Earth Day is once a year in West Greenwich, so we did the same thing. We grappled with the ordinance. Well, what are you going to do? You could say $5,000, but I mean, no one's being caught, so it doesn't really matter. I just think maybe an awareness campaign, something on your Facebook page. What our land trust did, and I don't know if it's going to work or not. They have their own money, so now they have all these little magnets that people have on the back of their cars. they're circled, and it has like a line, red line through it, that says, please do not litter our town, or, you know, something like catchy for our town, and maybe you could do something like that. But other than that, I think it's just an awareness campaign. I know our land trust goes to these schools and tries to get the kids involved. What other thing I think I see in our town, I could be wrong, is that a lot of people who drive trucks, they throw those McDonald's, there's Dunkin' Donut cups in the bed of their truck, and they always fly out, because we see a lot of that. The other thing we have a problem with in our town is nips, bottles of nips. People drinking and driving, and there's a lot of nip bottles all over the roads. So, I mean, that's just pathetic, that they're doing that while they're driving, with the way drunk driving is in the state. But, so, Mike, you're right, there's nothing you really can do, except public awareness, that's all you can do. And if the chief, they catch them, then and if you catch them, then you gotta put it to them, right, chief? You don't let them go, you don't give them a warning, right? So that's the only thing you can do.
I don't know if we could do any type of sign, do some more research on sign to what, I mean, somebody must have figured out one sign works better than the other.
One that has a surveillance camera on it. Yeah. A picture of a surveillance camera, no.
One of the articles I read,
Picture of the camera. There is no camera, Chris. It's just a picture of the camera.
and it works the psychological part. One of the articles I read, it was a sign with eyes on it was more effective than a, it's a psychological thing.
Have a campaign in the schools or something, it's starting with the kids that bring it home.
Yeah, but I don't think it's people
not
from
the
this
kids, I
town.
know,
No, it's
but-
not people from this town.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't hurt to make, we have this, you see the people on social media site that are complaining, I responded to a few of them. They're gonna see, if we put something out, they're gonna see it, and it probably wouldn't hurt. The ones that aren't on the site, but they're probably neighbors of these people with the same feeling, they don't even know this is going on.
But maybe on the town site.
So, it's almost, what's that, see something, say something.
Right.
If we could have a town-wide, people are looking for people that are,
Even little kids,
Yes,
they would tell their parents.
right, right.
That's a good one. See
Betty,
something?
I just wanted to say that it seemed like historically, people would throw things, like at my mailbox anyway, and you're talking about some of the things that I've noticed there over the years. I mean, a surveillance camera could have been put up, because I thought about it in the past, because you have to go out and pick this stuff up, so. It's that small junk, but I mean, it's still litter.
Yes, it's just for you.
Suggestion, possibly a flyer to be included with the tax bill. Everybody reads the tax bill. Telling them how serious it is, and it will be, we're trying to enforce it, or we will. Don't have to get into specifics, but maybe people are not aware. I think they take a lot for granted that they can put just about anything on the side of the curb. And our great rubbish collection people cheerfully will pick it up.
Right.
And then
Not
so,
always, I had a mattress
Or
thrown on
you
my.
have to bring your mattress.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
Well, then they're not
yeah,
supposed to pick it
it's
up.
our taxpayers littering on our streets. I think, so sending a, no offense, I do agree with it, but sending a letter to the taxpayers not to litter in their town, what I think it is people from out of town saying, listen, I gotta dump this where I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go out in the middle of the woods in Forster and on Hook. And so sending a letter to our tax people, I can pretty much guarantee them, we're not out there littering in our town. So it's.
well,
Right.
yeah,
And Mike, they're aware.
Well, they're aware because that's one thing.
There's also
So they're
a fee
looking for-
involved with putting it in the tax bill,
But
isn't
when
there?
people dump a boat and dump stuff on a back road,
Right.
they're not doing it in front of, they're going down a long driveway on a house that's not abandoned.
One of the things I would like to see addressed is who's responsible for picking it up. That seems to be the big thing, is like,
There's a-
okay, calling town hall isn't necessarily, I'm not sure what,
I'll give you one example that I know of. Somebody had posted a chair on Luther Road, and I watched some of the back and forth on it, and I was going to respond to it, but it was just kind of odd. And that I called Mr. Clark when he was still there and asked him, "What's your procedure for this? Do you have one?" And he said that he doesn't want the DPW being responsible
Right, I
to
agree.
go out and picking up
We
trash.
only have a few guys that,
Because that would be something
It's out of
that
control.
they'll end up doing every Monday.
right,
He told me that if the chair was on the road, like somebody's trash barrel was on the road, that he would call
remote.
Rambone and just notify them that it's there. If they would give word to the guys on the truck, listen, when you're going on such a road, there's a chair there, but it's on the road, and take it. I don't know if that was ever resolved, I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. The last time I went by, it's still there, but
I
it's
don't
not on the
believe-
road.
It's not on the road, it's in the woods. They won't take it.
So
if
take
it's-
it the first week.
Well, and then again, here's the other issue by having Rambone pick up all the stuff that they shouldn't be picking up. We have standards that we have to meet on tonnage, and we go over that tonnage, we get severely penalized. So there are some people out there on the same token that actually use our garbage transfer as when they should go out and get a dumpster, and they don't. They put building supplies and everything else, and when I say we get penalized big time, everything you add, we go over the tonnage, we get penalized there, but that also works against our recycling rate because we get a double whammy because the more weight you put in there in recycling, not only do they charge you higher, but it decreases your total of recyclables that you're sending, and then they penalize you for not meeting your recycling quota. So it's very cautious to start saying Rambone to go pick this stuff up because then, you know, we're paying thousands of dollars that we shouldn't be.
So what would you suggest? What would be?
It's just, I mean, I'm gonna be, you go anywhere in any city, you go downtown Providence, Cranston, some areas, there are those spots that are serious dumping issues, even downtown Providence, certain areas, Cranston.
But I'm worried about Boston.
I'm just trying to tell you, it happens everywhere.
Yes, I agree.
So it's just be aware, try and catch them. It's gonna be very hard to do that, but it's just something we're gonna grapple with. We gotta be careful
And
because.
then we go and pick it up ourselves, right?
Well, that's my question, is what do we do about those people that are putting on social media, that are calling town hall, that are saying, there's a TV left on my, there's a chair, is there
Not
some,
really a
is there?
question.
Well, we can notify our people that if it is their TVs they're putting out on the curbside for garbage pickup, that we accept them at the DPW, and we have a place for mattresses and stuff like that that they can bring down during hours. So, as for the people coming from out of town, dumping in town, that is pretty much just an enforcement issue, and it's almost impossible to catch them. So, I mean, I don't know what you do.
The question is, what do you do with the junk?
If it's
Right.
there, who's gonna pick it up? That's what
Is it the
question.
homeowner's responsibility to pick up something that's on their property? Is it?
Well, for example, the one that was spoken about on mattresses that was left on Tucker Hollow, I was actually working on that property, and there was 5 or 6 mattresses dumped a good 400 or 500 feet in on the property. So he took care of them. Yeah, he didn't just bring them up to the curb. I don't know what he did with them. He may have brought them down here and put them in the dumpster, but he cleaned up his job. Now, it's, yeah. I mean,
The only way you could really enforce, and you probably don't want to go down that slippery slope, would say like people are dumping on other people's property, you have to have an ordinance. And now you're kind of micromanaging people's lives, and that's unfair to them if it's not their junk, but that's the only way you can tell them, make them do that.
I think what's important is getting the word out that we're aware of it. And what they can do, what we're trying to do with the cooperation of the police, and at least let them know that we took it seriously.
Right.
And I think
that's what you were looking for.
What Mike said, see something, say something, is a great slogan, and we should use it somehow.
Do you want to run with that, Mr. Dillon?
Trademark it, make it.
Do you want to take that under your wing then and come up with something that we could put on the website?
Yes.
Do we have a motion? I'm
You need a
asking you.
motion for that?
No, I'm not gonna, if I make a motion, then you promised to do
Let Mike
that.
run with it.
Let Mike run with it. Thank you, Mr. Dillon.
We have a lot of.
Yes, we have some
I just-
suggestions.
So what, are you expecting the homeowners who are adjacent to this thing to take care of it? I mean, with
Well,
the
that was
answer,
my question.
what, do we call town hall? I mean,
Well, that was my question, Mrs. Riders.
I
I'm
know.
not sure
So,
what the
what are
answer
people
is.
supposed to do?
We don't have, I don't know, we evidently don't have an answer for that. And, which is not right, and.
So we just ignore it? I don't see that, Chair.
I asked him, I talked to Mr. Mangone about giving us stickers, so if we made a sticker up for these things that are on the side of the road that said, this is for homeowners who put stuff out that they shouldn't, which is the mattresses, old TVs, sometimes they put out refrigerators, to have a sticker, one color sticker that says where it goes, and that they will not pick it up, and it can't be left on the side of the road. And if they want to bring it to the DPW, we give the hours.
That's an idea, but that
That
doesn't help
doesn't
with,
help with the junk, but it does help with people who do put
Right.
like mattresses or, and I've seen mattresses out there for.
yeah, yes.
Well, that's homeowners put mattresses.
Right,
Right, right.
but that
Maybe that
doesn't
they're not
answer
aware.
our question for.
That doesn't answer your
And I'm-
question, then I'm sorry. I just don't.
I'm thinking our biggest problem, other than the drive-by Dunkin' Donuts cost a thing, is our biggest problem is the big things.
Right, yeah.
And if it is coming from out of town, if there's, I'm wondering if there's signage, so they're aware that we're aware that this is going on, maybe it'll curb it.
Maybe. So maybe it's something,
That's maybe, we're not a safe place to dump it.
right.
I think in the meantime, we have to have a process for them to get picked up.
Taxpayer funded.
Yes, chief,
You know what, you want you to tell me?
one
Or you
second.
want it?
Chief is good.
A couple things, and I think it's in the packet that I just gave you tonight. It's either an ordinance or a state law that property owners are responsible for all debris on their property. Two, Officer Domingos, Tyler Domingos is always in the school. If Mr. Dillon makes those flyers up, or we can find some other catchy, maybe coloring books or something, we can deliver those, to the kids in the school. And three, I'm gonna have my trailer on my pickup truck Saturday morning. I can pick up the couch on Luther Road.
You have a bad back.
Yeah, that's fine.
But you're right, Mrs. Ryder, we don't have an answer.
And I can see if someone actually has a house on that piece of land and it's not gigantic, they may take care of it. But we have so many pieces of land where no one
Right,
lives.
and that's where, when I'm
And that's
walking
where
that drive,
obviously
most
people
of
are
the-
gonna dump.
Right. Yes. Mr. Sheldon.
Part of the problem, I think you might be seeing, is especially on TVs, mattresses, tires. There was a time when HUD, going through all these abandoned houses or for foreclosures, they paid a little bit better prices for the companies like mine that deal with these things. We go to the property, we empty it out, we take it to the landfill. But now you have a lot of middle people, smaller companies that are doing work for the bigger companies, and they don't. That means these guys that are, these guys, smaller companies than mine, or frankly just a guy in a pickup truck. Over in Connecticut, he's got to pay $20 for any piece of electronics, even if it's a transistor radio. So they're looking for places to dump this stuff. I took 8,000 gallons of latex paint out of the garage in Connecticut. And it was a foreclosed house, but the guy that had the keys to that house was dumping all his paint in there. Mattresses are getting out of hand. I mean, they're about $27 a piece to get rid of down there in New York. They're about $22 now in Connecticut. If they can find a place in Foster and the Woods to dump it, they're gonna dump it. We just pulled 160 yards of debris out of the woods. That some guy is doing the same thing, he's dumping it. But this time they caught him, they found some mail in it, they found the house, they found out who was responsible for it, and then they found the kids that they hired to do it. But if you can find some of this stuff in this debris, an address, something that says an indication of where it is, I think it's still illegal to cross the state line with debris without an ICC license. But you're going to see more of that as we go along. The government keeps shopping the numbers for what these guys get paid, and everybody in the middle, all the middle management, they're going to drop their prices, and they're hiring kids that are not licensed to work around. So you're gonna find more.
It's only gonna get
alternatives.
worse.
And if you see somebody doing that, for instance, if the chief finds somebody dumping something in the woods and they got Connecticut plates on it, don't just, say you can't do that, make him pick it up and go away. Because he's probably been doing it for a couple of years.
Especially a mattress without a tag on
Yeah,
it.
especially the mattresses. They don't know that, they can't come to ours, they don't care. Televisions are getting real bad, and they're getting dangerous. It's a lot of the old TVs that are abandoned in these houses. People like to take pot shots at them, but they like to do it from 2 feet away.
Well, unfortunately, I don't think we can come to a conclusion tonight, but Mr. Dillon's going to work on that, and we'll see what we can come up with.
There might be a project for conservation.
It might be.
I just want to add, just driving around Foster, it's not a big problem.
No, it's not. It certainly is worse in Cranston and Providence.
Again, I do a lot of hunting in Coventry on the state lands down there, and like Acadia. Again, it's an issue everywhere, and we don't have a big problem with it.
But when it's sitting on your property, it's a problem.
I'm going to get rid of the couch.
Thank you.
And
Moving
dogs
on,
enjoy the chair on this kind of thing. I think that's exciting.
moving on to the budget schedule. Kelly put something in our packet.
This is just to keep you abreast of what's going on and what our projected dates are for the budget, and also generally around this time, we plan the first meeting date. Usually it's a Thursday, occasionally it's a Saturday. These time schedules are basically just samples from last year, but it's basically an idea of what it would look like whether it be on a Thursday or a Saturday. And the recommended dates are March 1st and March 3rd.
And March 1st is not our meeting night.
No, it's not.
So, just to let people know that. What's the pleasure of the council, the Thursday or the Saturday, or?
Thursday.
Thursday night?
Yeah, would be good for me.
That's what it says this Thursday night. Do you have any preference?
Thursday's fine with me.
I'm in
Thursday,
my
March.
50s, I have no life, so I'm good.
Thursday, March 1st. Thank you. And it would start at 6:30.
That's what the plan is, if that works for everybody.
Sounds good.
All right, I'll contact the departments and figure out an actual schedule. And again, to remind you, some of the departments will look slightly different. Planning and zoning is going to be considered one. With the new chart of accounts and basically with the transparency, using the transparency portals, chart of accounts for the state. They're considered one. So there's a few, like Conservation Commission, for example, is under general government, which is the town clerks. So they could actually report to her and then she could report as a whole. So I'm going to try to figure out how we work that out, if that's okay with everybody.
March 1st?
March 1st is the...
Can we start earlier? Anybody?
Paperwork's not in yet, I don't think.
No, earlier in the evening. It says
That night.
earlier than
At 7 o'clock.
Is that past daylight savings time, or is it still before? When's the clocks go, April?
I don't know what time it is now.
I think it's March 20th.
As long as it's still dark, I'm good.
It's not
It's not going to be dark.
It's not going to be dark earlier.
How about 6? Is that any good?
How early were you thinking to stop?
Yeah, 5:30, 6 o'clock.
I'll do 6, I won't do 5:30. You can start at 5:30, I just,
6 o'clock?
6 or
I can roll in a little bit later.
6.
I'm usually pretty quiet during the budget workshops.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
6 o'clock?
6 o'clock, March 1st, we begin with our budget workshop.
So you're scheduled to get your packets that day, the actual book that I prepared, so I could bring them that day and we can actually go over the book as it's presented, because generally speaking, everybody has the same questions, whether you have it in advance or not. So if that's okay, that will work. All right, great. All right, so I'll read you the schedule and make it a part of your packet for that day.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Before I go into this, do you want to swear those the people?
Yeah.
All right.
A motion
I would, well, I mean.
for the budget workshop?
Why don't you just, it's on the thing here, so
Okay.
everyone's okay with that?
Would somebody, I'll entertain a motion for March 1st at 6 o'clock to begin budget
Make a
workshop.
motion, we start budget workshops at 6 PM on March 1st.
Second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Oh, no, you can close and then during the break I can straighten it. I have stuff to get this one.
So for future agenda items, I have financial statements and standard policy. Is there anything else that you would like on the agenda? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to go into executive session.
I move to go into executive closed session pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42-42-4 for the reason stated in Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5. A1, personnel interview for town planner and temporary finance personnel. Discussion action on that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you for coming out. If those two people would stay, appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, camera's on.
Something on top, blow up the wall and create a bigger room so we can have it.
The new police station.
But I think that's so far away.
I'll wait for Mark to get back.
Go back to the woods.
Is it Sicily?
That's perfect.
See if I can do that again. Yeah.
I forgot the extra slope.
Are we ready?
Yes.
So we're in open session
We're in
now?
open session.
You're going to announce the votes that were taken?
Yes, I'm going to announce the votes that were taken. There was one vote taken to approve a temporary finance person for 2 days a week for 6 weeks with the possibility of taking the funding out of the contingency fund. It was voted upon and it was unanimously approved.
Ready? My next motion? Yep. Okay, I make a motion to appoint Jennifer M. Siciliano. Did I do that right?
You,
To open planners position contingent for a 6-month trial period contingent on passing a BCI and proper paperwork for employment and scheduled to be 24 hours but up to 28 if needed.
Second.
discussion.
Jennifer, I really want to reiterate, I wasn't kidding. There is a particularly difficult person. I just want you to be able to handle it and not take it. And if you have concerns, to go to him or her or Denise.
Yes,
Don't let that person intimidate you. It's not him.
No, they mentioned I have to tell you, they mentioned that somebody, I'll say.
Take them as you find them.
Yeah, somebody in Woonsocket sort of threatened me as well, and somebody, but, you know, you handle it, you normally talk to the solicitor, you just let people know. But yeah, so I've dealt with it.
Just don't take it in and suffer.
Sick.
I don't think this is the place to
No,
discuss
I
this.
don't. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, congratulations.
Congratulations, thank you for coming back.
I do, as we said, we need to have the BCI and the paperwork, et
Oh,
cetera.
yeah. That's what she was gonna
but-
start?
Yeah.
I am meeting with the current planner on Tuesday at 10 o'clock here. I don't know if you're available, if you'd like to.
Probably not this
Okay.
Tuesday.
That's fine. We were just meeting to, she
Yeah.
was gonna be filling in on this, so, but she did say she would be willing to talk to transition.
Did you have an idea of when you could start, what kind of notice you have to give? Because I know you're completely changing your schedule. So
Motion
what are we
adjourned.
looking for?
I would probably say,
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
today, we would say 2.5 weeks.
Okay, so what's the date?